top button unbuttoned buttons. I gotta get one more check mark going before we get really too excited in here. Okay, wheel spinning. All right, 5 check marks. Hello, everybody. Welcome into Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, which means it's time for another episode of Building the Broncos. And with me, as always, friend, co-host, football mind extraordinaire, and just a great dude, Carl Dumler. Carl, how you doing today, buddy?
I've been good. I've got the last 3 days with my daughter.
3 daughters, huh?
Yeah, 3 daughters.
Congrats.
No. No, it's been good. Got done with the swimming pool not too long. Got my nice little tan going on here today, and just feeling good, feeling very relaxed and ready to talk some Bronco football, and excited that we might have some news on ownership. Man, we might have. It's been years in the making, and it might be something going down. So I'm excited about that. But how are you surviving, man? You're not melted yet.
Well, it's not 108 degrees like it was yesterday. So I'm getting by. It's 85 right now, which is still really hot for this area with no air conditioning. And also while I'm in here, I don't have a fan going. Otherwise, the podcast would be the horrible quality. It just, and this is the Broncos just blowing in the background. So not going to do that to you guys. I'm sure that'll come across great when people are listening to the audio, that sound clip there. I'm doing fine. I joined the show today with you, and I joined the stream with no shirt on. So I wanted to give you and John a little show. I'm doing pretty well. I'm making the light of it, and it's starting to get cooler. I got a friend visiting me tomorrow, and my wife's mom, who I'm pretty good friends with as well, is coming out this weekend. So things are coming up aces recently. You know, things are getting cooler too. That just puts me in a better mood, man. I am not meant for the heat. Some people love the heat. Hell no. Get me out of there. I cannot do it.
I remember when I lived in Seattle, it hit, I think, like 93 one day, and our apartment did not have any AC at all. And oh my gosh, I was melting. My wife was in heaven. She loves heat. Like if it's 75, she's wearing a sweater.
Nope. That's shorts and no shirt weather from as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's me too. So I understand that pain of being in that place and not having any kind of air conditioning to counter it.
Have you seen the Key and Peele skit where his wife or girlfriend, is going through his search history and he's just like dripping, like just like water faucet, like it's going ridiculous? That's just me if the temperature gets above 85. Yeah. Just dripping sweat. So I would die if there was ever a post-apocalyptic where there was just heat all the time. Dead. Terry said I had to live in Georgia for 8 years, hated every minute of it. I lived in Iowa for a while where you get the extremes and everything as well, but we had air conditioning. It's a different beast when you do not have air conditioning in mountains, let me tell you. So let's get to the matters of business here before we get too far here talking about the weather, as Carl and I have to do. We're both middle-class white guys, right? The first thing, how you doing? How's the weather? Blah, blah, blah. How's the wife and kids? Guys, this is Building the Broncos. Good to see everybody in here today, joining in, trickling in nice and slow. It's a lazy Tuesday. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH, and Carl Dumler on Twitter also at Carl Dumler MHH. Also, guys, make sure you follow John on Twitter as well. He's working behind the scenes here, rocking his crazy horse hat, everyone's favorite. I know he's probably still on cloud 9 with the Broncos news about wearing the throwback helmets, because there's a chance. Maybe it won't happen this year, but it's going to happen eventually. They will wear those uniforms, so that'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully the Broncos can win that game. Maybe John will have to get tickets for that one. But follow John at John K MHH. While you guys are over on Twitter, please also follow Mile High Huddle at Mile High Huddle. It's a hard one to remember, I know. And also follow the podcast account at BTB Football Pod. Guys, if you're joining us on Facebook today, I see you're starting to trickle in nice and slow, but click those thumbs up. I see Gary Leeds Palmer's already given the thumbs up. George Fox, Tommy Simmers, Greg Smith, Aaron as well. So if you guys have joined us on Facebook today, click the thumbs up, click the care react, click the heart react. That helps us a lot. And while you're over on Facebook, also join us on facebook.com /Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com /Mile High Huddle Pod. And our main bread and butter, YouTube people, if you're joining us, Twitch, Periscope, wherever, that's great. We love you for it. But YouTube is probably the main driver here. Oh, we got a few more coming in here. We got a love from Terry Rigg. I see you, Terry. Carl Rosa on Facebook giving us the like. Thank you. Oh, and an 8th one, Matt Henry as well. Thank you guys, man. Coming in, call of action. You like that? 9 now. I got to keep it going though. So sorry, number 9. We'll get to you. But join us on YouTube today also. If you're joining us on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. I know that the main driver of this show is the super chats, but not everybody's in a position to do that. I know that at plenty of times in my life, I would not have been in position to do that as well. But something you can do that's completely free that helps us a heck of a lot. If you go to YouTube, subscribe, like, and share, get this show, get all the shows to new listeners, new Broncos fans out there, and bring in a new audience because, I really hate the echo chamber. I hate the positive feedback loop that can be the news sources, right? And if we get a more diverse community in here, reach out to more people, it means that we can get different takes, different eyes, and everybody grows with that diversity in the fan base. So please go ahead and do that if you guys have not yet. So Carl, I know that our theme today was originally, actually, let's say hello to some people. Diamond Rattler come in here. I love Diamond. Diamond and I have gone back a few times back when we were talking quarterbacks. Would have been like way back in January, but he keeps showing back up. So, it's, even if we don't always agree, that's incredible to keep coming back. So Diamond says, boom, let's go. So what's the news regarding the ownership of the Broncos that just came out? Lawsuit has been vacated. Settlement incoming. So Carl, you first thing you said, you didn't even react to my no shirt. No, that's not true. You winked a little bit, but just a very subtle wink. But what can you tell us about the settlement? This news coming, and I think it was Ryan O'Halloran. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. Who's a Broncos beat writer for the Denver Post?
I think so.
If I'm not mistaken. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And yes, of course there was a wink.
Okay,
how could there not be a wink? But no, you're right. So there is what is called a stay of the lawsuit.
Thanks, Andrew.
And I'm not a lawyer, so maybe we can get one of our lawyer friends in here. We've got a couple I know in the chat that can probably explain this a little bit better. But essentially, it means something has happened in the case that has made one side decide, or both sides decide to stay, to put the case on hold and say, we're not going to move forward with anything if certain things happen moving forward. So they're waiting for more information to come about. Now, what that could be, it could be that there is a settlement between the two sides that Beth Bolin and what's the other one's name?
Clemmer?
Yeah.
Amy Clemmer.
Yeah, that either they're getting kind of paid to take a step back. Could be that the NFL and others are deciding, Broncos, it's time for you to be sold. And they're sitting there saying, well, then there's no reason to have this lawsuit of fighting for ownership if the team's just going to be sold. So this is big, big news for the Broncos. I think it really could be heading in that direction of that the team is going to be sold. And we've talked on here before of some names that could be out there for the Broncos that could really help this franchise. I mean, we've talked about it before that one of the biggest, I love the Bolins. Who could not as a Bronco fan? All three Super Bowls have happened with the Bolins at leadership. Mm-hmm. And of course, Pat Bolin. I mean, he, as much as John Elway is kind of the face of the franchise, Pat Bolin is the true embodiment of everything that is the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see how everything went down with him and now with his family. But part of the problem is just the money. I mean, we've talked about Broncos are cash poor. There's a difference between having cap space. Yes. Okay. Compared to other NFL owners. Let's put it that way. Broncos are in the bottom 5 when it comes to cash flow as a franchise. And as much as people think, the NFL is worth all this money and, these owners are just getting ridiculous money, the truth really is at the end of the season, after everything's been paid out, the real money is in the ownership of the team. So when you sell them, that's when you get all of your profits. Broncos were bought for like $700 million back when Pat Bolin first started buying them. Now they're worth over $2 billion. Not a bad deal when you're talking about your investment. But when you're talking about actually cash on hand at the end of the year, you're talking maybe $30 to $50 million. And a lot of times they put that back into stadium or practice fields or facilities, pay boosts, money to save up for future contracts, because any kind of signing bonus that you put out there, you got to pay it all up front. Now, it doesn't get to the player right off the bat, but you have to at least have that money on hand to put into the bank.
Escrow.
Yes.
Right. Escrow. So let's clear some tweets here from Ryan O'Halloran that he said that insight on this. So the first tweet that he had said, trial between Amy Clemmer and Beth Bolin Wallace versus Bolin trustees Ellis, Slivka, and Kelly has been stayed per joint motion. And the trial date of July 12th has been vacated. And stayed a lot of times means that the parties want to halt right where they are and not do anything more right now. He also hinted that interested in NFL headquarters involvement, pushing sides towards a settlement, keeping it private. So that could be something here. Obviously, the NFL would like this not to get public and not to drag out. So that could be obviously a heavy influence there. Also, it's from an account called Denver versus Everybody, who has definitely an inside scoop in the Denver Broncos, has said that both Beth Bolin Wallace and Amy Clemmer have said that they would drop the suit if the Broncos were sold. So it makes me think that a very possible settlement has been agreed to, and that a sale is not only likely, but at this point probably imminent. Not the actual sale happening, but being on the market, I guess is the way to put it. So we got a super coming in here. Thank you very much for kicking us off, Brian. Well, never mind. He doesn't talk about me. Forget the super. Get out of here, Brian. He doesn't mention mine. No, I'm just kidding. Brian, long time to see Carl. Long time no see Carl.
Well, yeah.
It's never too long to see Carl. His beautiful beard, his jovial spirit. And everybody's giving me a hard time about Germany losing today. Guys, you guys earned it. I think it's the first time England has ever beaten Germany in tournament play. Is what it is. Carl, you were a soccer player, right? Am I getting off the rescue? Okay. Yeah.
No, I am. I coach it, and yes. I've played. We have an adult league around here. I'm not great, but I do play. Yeah. And so I'm very interested always in soccer, and being of German roots, they are beyond the U.S. team. Of course, if any other national team, Germany's the one I cheer for. Mm-hmm. And but hey, I give it to England. They needed a win. They got one. Not proud, but I guess good for them. Yeah, good for them. Yeah, little golf clap for them. I'll give that. Especially
good for our English listeners out there.
Yeah.
So happy for you guys. I sick uniforms. But anyway, back to the Broncos here. Travis coming in here. Hello, my fellow Iowan and Carl, Denver Bronco for life. Thank you very much. People are asking, what happened to your flag, Nick? I'm supposed to take it down and put it up between every episode, and I came in here a little bit late. So I had enough time to take my shirt off to tease Carl and also to take off my undershirt because it was way too hot, but I totally forgot to put up the flag. So, it's still around, but, is what it is. And we also want to give a shout out to Michael, real quick here. Good evening, Carl and Nick. Great to see you again. Nick from this morning from Broncos for Breakfast. I'm watching live now on Facebook. Go Broncos. And Michael always is a great supporter. And he's rocking the merch right there. And he also very supportive on Twitter as well, always reaching out after the shows, saying what he liked, what he didn't like. And, we appreciate that. So good to see you. So what are your thoughts here, Carl? I guess the next thing is, do you think this is something that is an imminent sale? And is there somebody in mind that you have that you're looking for? And I hear Summit is going to be the new Airbud. I'm waiting until Summit's growth plates are completely closed before I'm subjecting him to any contact sports. Now, I'm a responsible dog owner in that regard.
All right. I wanted to get to this comment from Tyler Rogers. Oh, sorry. I'll leave my hands off. Sorry. I'll get there. So Tyler Rogers, I don't understand why Pat didn't put who he wanted to own it in his will. I think, from what I understand, Pat wanted this to be a family business. And so he was hoping that maybe you'd have one kid that was the face of the ownership, of course, but the rest of them would all work together as a family. You see that with a lot of others. The Chiefs, they have a family that runs the entire organization. The Steelers, I think that's what he kind of pictured for his team as well, that they would kind of work together as a family. Well, unfortunately, the kids don't exactly get along with each other. And, of course, you've got one who is not exactly always stable, his son. We're not going to get into that too much, but there's a lot of craziness that's kind of happened there. And then, of course, got, unfortunately, kids from different family. It just, okay, I'll leave that all alone. But I think that's what he had in mind, and it just didn't turn out that way.
I know that it would never happen, but like if NFL Films and HBO they have Hard Knocks, but I want to see like a Game of Thrones style of the Bolin family. Like, right? Didn't his family make a bunch of money off like the shopping cart empire too? And like there's oil money as well. I think it would be real, like his wife or something, the shopping cart money. So the Nikki Jablava did an amazing piece when this all first came to life about the secret child and everything like that. So, that
doesn't help either.
It would be a very interesting drama out there, kind of like was the show Billionaires or whatever. So, thank you for the comment, Tyler. I mean, it does sound like this team is probably a settlement coming in, probably a sale, and that's what we've been saying for a year now, right? It's just like this is a lot of. There's going to be some posturing. There's going to be some back and forths. Both sides trying to carve out as much power to get as much out of it as they can because this is their main money egg, right? Yeah. They do not like each other. You put that. That's putting it lightly. But this team is going to go on the market. How long will they be on the market? It's a show like Dallas. Yeah, it really is. But how long will this team be on the market? Who could it go to? Unsure. I think the biggest thing is I guess I do kind of care who it goes to. Like, I don't want it to go to like somebody who's like pure evil, like I don't want to be cheering for a Jeffrey Bezos owned team. Now it would be cool. All the Broncos could go to the moon. Like he could pay to take them to the moon. That'd be cool. Right. And also I could sing the Jeffrey Bezos like song every time. I don't know if you've seen the new Bo Burnham special. It's really dark. Trigger warning for those with mental health issues out there. Man, it's I don't know.
I really don't want him. I feel like he'd be one of those owners that like wants to cut corners as much as possible because he's all about the almighty dollar and just not really caring about the actual team. Like that was the thing about Pat Bowlen. Like the team was everything to him. He invested everything he possibly could to make this a great team. He would go spend time with players. He would meet with their families. Like he was fully invested in everything that was Denver Broncos. And so that's why there's a couple guys out there. I'm trying to remember names. I wish this didn't come out like 5 minutes before we're supposed to start our show. And I would have a little time to remember names because you know how bad I am with names. But there's a guy, he grew up in Denver. And I'm trying to remember, he's one of the richest. I think he is the richest minority in the United States. And I think, yes, that's his name. And I think he would do great for the Broncos because I think he loves the city. Everywhere he's gone in his business, he's always made sure that it is about improving the community. He was one of them that was actually trying hard to keep. He was living in Oakland at the time, of trying to keep the Oakland Raiders in Oakland, and pushed hard to try to build up the community around it to make it a little bit better investment for people. And it didn't work out, obviously, but I just see that with the Broncos, that he would work hard to make them a good team and a good community center for Denver.
Yeah, and miss me with like Elon Musk. That would be terrible. That'd be just so annoying. I'd be so annoyed. I mean, it'd be funny, but like, what the heck is going on? I mean, we already live in a simulation, right? Things are just off the rails. So why not? Jeff Bezos would have kept Lindsay. All right. I do think Robert Smith, he's one who I think he's from Denver. And he's done a lot of like paying for a bunch of African-Americans college degrees, paying off their college debt. I do think he had something where like tax evasion, where he had to pay a bunch of money off to the courts because of that. So it's not squeaky clean. So that might be something that could be an issue, but they're NFL owners, they're billionaires. Not everybody's going to be squeaky clean in general. So worth seeing what happens there in that regard. So like we said, this is something that we thought would be happening eventually. It's just interesting that we hit this hurdle today, potential hurdle, at least some movement. It's felt glacier pace, but it also feels like keeping it in context or in theme of Seattle melting and climate change. It's a glacier it's been heated up, and we have an avalanche coming. I think we're going to see some movement happen really quickly here. I knew
something that would come up since Trump tried to buy the Bills.
Yeah. Well, I think the NFL probably wouldn't. I think the NFL probably wouldn't want that. I mean, the NFL already blackballed him from the Bills, right? Like they said, no, we don't want you. So
right, yeah, it'd be too much chaos for the NFL. I mean, it'd bring a lot of headlines, but not the headlines they want for sure. So that's not going to happen. I've seen a few people say Peyton Manning. So Peyton Manning is rich beyond belief, obviously, but he's not ownership rich. And so he would,
like Magic Johnson is a figurehead for an ownership group that purchased the Lakers. That's what Peyton Manning could do. And that would be awesome. I would be all about that. But actually like the actual money, no, not happening.
He's not. I feel like if I remember right, is his wife richer than him? Like her family? Because they own the what team is it? They own a basketball team, or have part ownership in a basketball team. The Grizzlies, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe I know that Arthur Smith, the new Falcons head coach, doesn't need to be a head coach because he's the heir to FedEx. Right, his dad started FedEx, so that's okay. That's a funny one. Oh, and Terry Riggs saying Tennessee is the team, so that would be Memphis. So I don't know. That'd be really cool. Let's say hello to some people coming in here right now. Miller 707 is in the house. Good to see you, Miller 707. Always good to see you. Higher Learning is out here. KB82, we've already said hello to. Good to see you. Richie Rich is in the house. Good to see you, Richie. We got Enki in the house. Swink McLeod, Charlie Beagle's in the house. Jay Kozad, Mike S. Always rocking the Alabama, the A with the mullet. Good to see you. Jay-Z, that'd be a fun one. Luke Holtz. Brian Greenfield's in the house too. So yeah, no, it's awesome. And I think we had like a $2 super. Did we get that earlier? A Slide and Glide. Let's get to this real quick because we don't want to leave Slide and Glide bros on read. You know, we're nicer than that. We're not gonna. You can hit us up in the DMs. As far as I'm concerned, my shirt was off earlier, man. I'm in. So speaking of Slide and Glide, expectations. Oh my God, John, if I'd have pulled you up at that moment. Slide and Glide bros. Expectations for Miners. I think he's going to get this is going to be a redshirt year for him. If he does play, I think it means something went wrong either with Cushenberry failing to take a step forward or injuries occurring. He could blow by expectations and start this year. You know, anything can happen. But I've said it on this show many times. I mean, you're talking about a guy who didn't even play center at Division III football. First time he was snapping footballs in live reps was at the Senior Bowl. So, hello. All the mental stuff that happens there. Not that Miners is slow or stupid or anything. Probably quite to the contrary. But he hasn't done it. And going from Division III to the NFL level with like the line checks and everything, getting everybody aligned and the pre-snap stuff that's a huge ask. That'd be like asking a high school kid to take a PhD class, right? Like the PhD classes aren't hard, guys. Not, but you know, it'd be really hard for him to do that. And even that's not even getting into the technical side of things, the strength and conditioning going from Division III Whitewater to the NFL. So 2021 expectations for Miners, probably if you see him this year, it means something went wrong. Probably, unless, you know, things happen. I'm not going to say it's impossible for him to be amazing out of the gate, but that's typically not the case. Yep. But I do think long term he has a chance to start in the interior offensive line. Where that is, that remains to be seen. There are 5 solid interior offensive linemen the Broncos have right now. There's only 3 spots. So what does it mean? Reisner, if he struggles this year, maybe one that's out. Glasgow's contract may be out. Cushenberry, if he struggles, may be out. So also you got to factor in Attain Moody. So Broncos were looking to take a tackle with that draft spot. He was taken. Both tackles were taken. They're looking at there in the 3rd round. So they took Miners and they strengthened the interior offensive line. And either way, I mean, right, it's a strength versus strength. And hopefully the best guy wins and the whole unit's better for it. But those are my long-winded expectations for Miners. What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like I said, center is becoming actually beyond left tackle. It might be the 2nd most important position on the offensive line. No, you're not with that?
No.
Okay.
Right tackle for sure.
Okay.
It's way too hard to isolate tackle.
That's true.
You can protect me inside.
I just think with the amount of information and everything that the center has to know, you're just asking so much for rookies. Like I said, a guy that was Division III, didn't even play last year, to come in and do that hasn't actually ever played the position other than the Senior Bowl. It just, the odds of that happening and him doing well, like he could maybe take it because Lloyd Cushenberry was not great last year. But the odds of him actually doing well at that are slim to none. You know, I believe in the kid. I think he does have a real future in the NFL. I think he could become one of the fan favorites real quick if he's not already. But I mean, especially because of his play on the field, because he's strong. He is smart. He's a hard worker. He's all the things you want in a guy to become successful in the NFL. So I think he'll get there. It's just not right now. And, you know, and then I've got a few people in here asking about that right tackle spot. Tim Durr. Carl, how could you say that after the turnstile at right tackle we've had the last couple of years? You're right. I mean, it has been downright terrible. And last year wasn't actually as bad as I think some people make it out to be. I think they did okay. it wasn't. I mean, there was a lot worse right tackle situations than what the Broncos had last season. Still wasn't great. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything here. I think it'll be better this year. I think the Broncos at least have a few options that have some decent starting experience, who won't be complete liabilities, at least, I guess I should say. So, yeah, I guess I'd put it close between center and right tackle. I agree. You can isolate a right tackle, but I think just the information that you have to have as a center is just off the charts.
I will add some nuance to that also. If you have a quarterback who is either A, not very bright, or B, young, or C, A and B, then having a very smart, experienced center matters more. But if you have a Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, it doesn't even have to be that, but a seasoned veteran at quarterback, you don't have to have a center that has that wealth of knowledge, that because the quarterback can do that too. And the rumor is, again, I asked a couple people about this. I only got it confirmed from one. And I always like to try to get two things confirmed. So it's a rumor. But last year they put some stuff on Drew Lock's plate he was struggling with, and then they shifted it to a Cushenberry. So having two young guys with that, I mean, that's not easy. That's not exactly what you want to see.
Yeah.
So let's get into this. Also, first I want to say, Kane saying center's a hard position for any rookie to learn. That's very true.
Yep.
And I don't know if you saw from Pro Football Focus, they said the number one offensive lineman in all of college football this year, not just center, but the number one offensive lineman in all of college football is University of Iowa's Tyler Linderbaum. There, I had to get my Iowa reference in. Whoever's keeping score at home, take a drink.
Yeah, too. All right. Well, Gary coming in here says, love the Nick and Carl show with all of the Broncos family. Training camp will answer so many questions. You're right. True. And I've seen a couple about an Iowa player. So I wanted to ask you about this because we did, our main topic actually today was going to be talking about 2020 class expectations for 2021. Mm-hmm. And a couple people have asked about, what about Ojemudia? Where does he fit on this team this season?
So yeah, Michael Ojemudia is one who I am extremely excited to see in 2022. I know that's kind of a cop-out, so to speak, but the way this team, the depth chart is lined up, it's probably a hard time for Michael Ojemudia to see starting reps because he would be fifth on the depth chart. But that being said, you have two players who are set to be free agents after this year in Kyle Fuller and Bryce Callahan. And Ronald Darby and Bryce Callahan both have extensive injury history. So that means that Ojemudia has a path to the football field. It just probably isn't as much this year on defense. He'll have special teams play this year, and I'm sure you're going to see some rotation. And I think Vic Fangio, before Kyle Fuller got out there, Ojemudia was getting a lot of reps, and he was impressing out there, apparently, reportedly. I mean, that's pure hearsay. So since we're doing law stuff today, I might as well call that out. Objection, hearsay. But still, he's one that, don't forget about Ojemudia. Even if he doesn't play this year, even if he's put in the fermentation chamber, I think he's going to be a starting boundary corner for this team at some point. And the important thing here is 3 years left of 3 years left of cost control. Yep. So he's still going to get a chance.
Right.
CC coming in here saying draft Evan Neal in next year's draft, right tackle, problem solved. He's a big boy. He's fun. If the Broncos are drafting, who knows? We have a whole year to play. He could fall at the end of the first round because, all these guys are perfect prospects until the scout microscope is put over them, and then you pick out every single flaw. Right. But he's definitely one of the tackles to keep an eye on next year. So good call.
Yeah. And I did see a few people talking about Ojemudia switching over to safety. Well, you did have the Broncos just draft 2 safeties as well, so that makes it a little bit harder even to get into that kind of role. I mean, I don't mind them trying to cross-train him this year and then kind of figure out, okay, where is he most successful? Mm-hmm. Because I do think he has the aggressiveness, the intelligence to go play as safety. He's just that's a harder switch than people realize, though. It's not a 1-to-1 apples to apples kind of thing. A safety is asked to do so many different things compared to a cornerback,
especially for Vic.
Right. Exactly. So I don't mind them cross-training during training camp just because, he's not going to get a whole lot of reps otherwise just because of all the guys in front of him. But I still think his best role is as an outside cornerback for the Broncos moving forward.
Yeah, you're probably right there. I could see him get some reps if the Broncos do make a transition to more of a 4-2-5 base where instead of that smaller slot, you see more like what a lot of college teams are doing is that star position, where it's that nickel player isn't that small, feisty cornerback. They're more of a big body guy. So they call it star. I've seen some teams call it viper. I think actually that might be a linebacker position. I don't know. They make up team names, or defensive position names to get guys to play. I think it was a Georgia team saying, "Oh, we're going to call this position sniper because the kids love it." It's like, okay, well, cool. But you could see also him moving into that kind of hybrid safety cornerback role, which Vic Fangio has historically liked to use. But as far as here we go. See, would you be interested in seeing him as a star corner or safety hybrid? Literally what I was just saying. So there you go, CC. Good call. So yeah, I think Ojemudia will be fine. It just might not be this year for him, but with how he plays, and it's stuff that we don't get to see, unfortunately, and nobody gets to see besides the team themselves, how he's working behind the scenes could be a big factor or variable for how the Broncos approach this offseason with Bryce Callahan hitting free agency, with Kyle Fuller hitting free agency. If they feel comfortable with Ojemudia, what he's done behind the scenes, maybe they're looking to pinch some costs there. Maybe they can pay a right tackle to come in that's, doesn't take every other year off and can fortify that position. Or maybe because of that, they let Kyle Fuller / Bryce Callahan and or walk, and they can not only pay Cortland Sutton, they can pay Bradley Chubb. And you're already getting ahead of those contracts because you went cheaper at cornerback because you felt good with Michael Ojemudia. So definitely don't sleep on Ojemudia. It just might be this year is more of him on the back burner. He's on a low boil right now. It's like when you cook, you have your rice and you're supposed to let it sit there for a little bit before you fluff it up. That's where Ojemudia is right now.
And I would add, this is I talked about this a few weeks ago. One of the great things that the Baltimore Ravens have been doing for a long time is in those mid-round picks, the third round, usually they're looking for pass rushers. And so then every 2 years they're drafting more pass rushers. And then by the time they get to the third year of their contract, they're replacing those high price guys. And so then those high price guys go off and then they get a third round comp pick for them. And then they use that to get their replacement that will be ready 2 years later. So, the Broncos, like I said, they could be really looking at that kind of thing here with Ojemudia. And I did like Tim Durr's question. Maybe he does show so well in camp that they sit there and say, why are we going to pay Bryce Callahan when we can have Ronald Darby go play that position?
Yep.
And we feel good about that. And we just don't trust that Callahan's going to stay healthy enough to justify keeping him at his contract. Maybe that's what happens. I don't know. There's so many things. That's the one group. I cannot wait until training camp gets here.
Yeah.
I put out a question on Twitter earlier, like who are going to be the top 3 guys week 1? And the results were kind of all over the place because people are going, well, you paid Kyle Fuller and you paid Ronald Darby. How could you not have them on the field? Well, you also used a top 10 pick on a cornerback. How could you not have that guy on the field? And Bryce Callahan, you're paying him too. And when he was on the field last year, he was a top 10 cornerback in football. So, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But I'm just very interested to see at the end of the day, when you are in your nickel formation, who are your 3 guys that are on the field?
You might see them use more 4 because of how versatile Surtain is and whatnot. And Callahan and Darby have a lot of injury history. So we'll see what happens. Callahan is the victim. I don't know. We got Harry coming in here. Ask $10 super. Thank you very much, Harry. Hey, Nick, do you plan on attending the Broncos Seahawks game on 8/21? Right now, that is a TBD. I might be backpacking somewhere deep in the Cascades that day. You have about 3 months to take advantage of great weather out here, and it's a preseason game. So I might be out there, but if I have a chance to get out in the backcountry, then I might do that as well. That's a tough decision. Also, it depends on what the budget's saying at that point.
Man, where are your priorities? Come on.
You know what? Mountains, Broncos, hiking, football. Either way, I can't shut up about either of them. So my poor wife. So I wanted to pull this up here real quick. Everybody stall. Okay, there we go. So we wanted to talk about this today. Hopefully that looks good for everybody on the screen. I'm about the visual aid. So we're talking about, and thank you very much for the $10 super. That means a lot, Harry. That'd be great if I could go to the game. We'll see what happens. Broncos 2020 draft class at the time, very highly heralded, and we kind of just wanted to go through. Now it's a year later with the expectations, and you and I both preach, when a draft class happens, give it a second to breathe. It's like a good wine too. Then you put it in a decanter, it has to aerate I'm not a wine drinker. I don't know. Give me that beer as fresh as possible, unless it's a barrel aged stout, and then let that baby sit in the basement for a bit. But here we go. Broncos draft class, and we've already talked about the Broncos third round picks in Ojemudia and Cushenberry. So I say let's save the receivers for last. As far as the first 2 rounds, let's keep going back. We'll keep everybody on the hook as far as the Broncos early picks, because I'm sure everybody's going to have some opinions there. McTelvin Agim, he's the next one, and he's the one who, out of this entire class, we saw the least from last year, which I think is pretty interesting for a third round pick, 95th overall. But also, he's a position that takes time to develop. And Buwana coming in here saying he still needs to see him. He's concerned. I'm kind of concerned too. I get some DeMarcus Walker flashbacks here, and everybody's forgetting about Agim. So that is one to be concerned about. Now, that being said, he played a weird defense at Arkansas. It was kind of a 3-3-5, and he was playing like 7 technique where they're only rushing 3, and definitely a guy that needed to change his body type a bit. He needed to get some more mass on his base and get a little bit more power. Now, he does have twitch and agility that you don't always see. So that's a good factor. That's the reason we went top 100. But McTelvin Agim, he's one. McTelvin Agim, who? Well, guys, Draymond Jones only flashed a little bit his rookie year, right? Like we were like, oh, we're gonna see, and then second year, boom. So put it on ice. We're gonna see what happens. It was Sosa, McTelvin Agim coming here. So Carl, what are your expectations for Agim this year? What's his role look like? What do we need to see?
Well, when I was thinking about this 2020 class, when we came up with this topic, I was thinking beyond, of course, Jerry Judy, KJ Hamler, the big names there, Lloyd Cushenberry, of the guys remaining after those 3. Who do I think could make the biggest impact of this class? I think it's Agim, because the defensive line, they do have usually a pretty big rotation. I know Albert will probably get his opportunities as well because he's number 2 tight end. You're going to have him on the field for a lot of different things. But I think Agim could be a very underrated player this season. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Big time player. And you saw the flashes in college. Like you said, played in a weird defense, didn't really always – they just moved him around so much to so many different roles. And kind of like this year with Baron Browning. Sometimes moving a player around too much takes away their ability to actually be good at one thing. And so I think Agim could actually come in here, make some plays. He's going to get some reps. He's not going to be a starter by any means unless there's some injuries. But I think he's that type of guy that could really just have things click one day. The talent's there. He is just gifted athletically. And like I said, a year being in the gym of an NFL locker room, in an NFL locker diet, all those kind of things, I really think he could shock some people this year.
Yeah, and just how he was playing with Arkansas, he had really high pad level too, kind of to step up out of his stance. He had some work to do to go from the college to the NFL level. But I'm really excited to see him this year. He's one that when the Broncos do end up playing preseason, he's one that you're going to want to watch given the investment and what it means also. Like if Agim really steps out this year, what does that mean for a Draymond Jones contract, given what the Broncos are going to have to do with Bradley Chubb, probably Cortland Sutton, some of those guys. So it's a worthwhile investment, but it's an investment. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit just to see what happens there for him. But I'm hopeful, right? He's a fun player. And even as a late 3rd round pick, even if he never develops into like a great starter, but he's kind of one of those first defensive linemen off the bench, that's fine. It's not great, but that's fine. That's not a miss, right? So pick 95 overall, that's not a miss. So hopefully we'll see. Well, what would Agim's expectation be this year for you? Like, what would his role be ideally, given that how the Broncos defensive line depth chart stacks up right now?
I think if he could get to that 3 to 5 sacks from the interior kind of guy, because he's going to have a lot. I know it is, but he's going to have a lot of one-on-one opportunities. And again, he has that athletic explosive ability that if he can keep his pad level low, and he can learn from Kolar, if he can learn from all the other players that are on the team that can go out there and teach him better technique. He's one of those guys. He just needs to be taught how to do it right because he just has never had that really. Arkansas is not really known for NFL caliber players coming out of that university. I'm sorry if we have any Razorbacks listening here right now, but it's just Yeah, it's been a long time since they've really been that kind of place. But I could see that where he gets those kind of opportunities and goes and makes a couple plays that just surprise people. It was kind of like Draymond Jones his rookie year. I mean, he had 5 sacks his rookie year and kind of surprised some people with limited snaps. I could see that same thing here with Ajim in year 2.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, because the Broncos having depth in the defensive line. Anybody who followed football closely last year knows that the Minnesota Vikings just absolutely imploded because their defensive tackle depth was just gutted, and that made everything, the wheels fell off the bus because that it's like the antithesis of the Broncos this year with the cornerback position. That happened with the Vikings defense, but at defensive tackle. So I know Peyton's going to have some value and hope for depth there. Moving on now, Alberto Queben, probably tight end 2 out of the gates, right? I mean, even though we only saw him a little bit this year, he's got to be tight end 2, right? Like, he's not displacing Noah Fant. I know last year there's a lot of push for that for God knows what reason. A lot of Noah Fant dismissal. Going to be great this year. I'm really excited for him. Yep. That's not just the Hawkeye in me speaking out, although probably a little bit. But Tyler coming in here saying Alberto could make some great plays in the red zone or in 21 personnel. That's I think he means 12 personnel, right? 21 is ace.
Right.
Yeah. So 12 personnel, unless he meant year 21, which is possible also. But yeah, no, that's what are your expectations with Alberto Queben this year? What does he need to improve on? I know that he flashed last year in very limited sample size, but for the tight end position, given how many hats tight ends have to wear, you'd really hope that he can improve in a lot of areas of the game. Well,
I mean, these stats right here, if he's around 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, I'm going to feel pretty good about that, honestly.
Yeah, that's fine.
For not being tight end number 1, because that probably means Noah Fant went for like 800 to 1,000 yards and probably closer to like 8 to 10 touchdowns and getting that from your tight end group, man, that's pretty awesome. And he's going to be a red zone target. We saw it last year. That was what his main role was when he came in there for a little bit. He got his targets around the red zone and unfortunately dropped a couple plays that really could have been something big and made his season a little bit more promising. So he's got to be more consistent. He's got to go make those plays that should have been there, that are the big reason he's brought in, of being that 6'5", 6'6" guy that can go up above the rim and jump everybody else. He's never going to be your, like, take a slant play for 80 yards for a touchdown kind of thing from the tight end position. That's going to be more of Noah Fant. We've seen that from him. He's done some of that. But Queben, if you can get him on some of those seam routes where he can really use that straight line speed and his height advantage, yeah, that works out pretty well. And for a tight end too, that's not bad. I mean, he's got to improve on blocking. That's an easy given. He was not a great blocker in college. He was not a great blocker last year. And so if he can really improve in that area, it's going to get him a lot more opportunities on the field.
I just want him to play lower in every aspect of the game. I know he's 6'6", 260, 6'5", 260, but he plays tall, and that is not always a good thing. Center of gravity, it's physics here. So that's true when he blocks. He blocks too tall, he doesn't have a good base, and he can get blown up because of that, and also it leads him to lunge and lose his balance and get beat. Also, he plays really tall in his routes, and that leads him to curving off a bunch of his routes and not creating separation. Right now, he's a bubble screen or a seam route runner, because he turns like a battleship or an aircraft carrier right now when he's trying to create routes. And that's something that he's going to have to work on. I mean, it's a lot working against him given his mass and his height, but I mean, we see that with like Gronkowski too, right? So it can be done. It's just, again, comparing anybody to Gronk's not fair, but those are just things that he's going to have to work on. And it's never going to be perfect. He's never going to be as agile as Noah Fant, which is fine, but he can be really good and kind of a power player. And if he never improves his route running, like if he always is kind of a bubble screen, hitch, or a seam route kind of guy, that's fine. He's got to block better, especially for this 2021 team. With all the weapons they have, the pass catchers, the quarterback position being capped probably at average at best, probably. I mean, anything better than that's awesome, but I'm hoping for average. Like, just give me average. We haven't had that since Peyton Manning. I'll take average this year. But because of that, it's probably going to be a run-centric team this season. And that means your second tight end better block his ass off. And that's not been the case for Queben so far in his career.
Yep. And I mean, right here, CC saying, I'm worried about their situation with blocking tight end. And none of those names make me jump out of my seat and say, oh, yeah, that guy, he's going to really emerge. Andrew Beck is kind of the jack of all trades, master of none. Can do a little bit of everything, but isn't great at anything. I like Andrew Beck, but he has a role because the Broncos haven't had depth at tight end for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just kind of like, well, we got to have this guy because he can do things that the others can't. He can't do it great, but he can at least do it. And so I see some other people kind of with this. I wonder why teams don't use an extra offensive lineman / tackle when they call run plays and try to maul teams. Few reasons.
A lot. Yeah,
yeah there's a lot here. So one, the NFL, part of what makes great offensive coordinators is you keep the defense off balance. You keep them guessing what you're trying to do on the field. You got 6 offensive linemen on the field. They're sitting there saying, all right, this makes it easy. I know you're probably going to be running. This eliminates a lot of options, and it allows where you're not going to send that tackle out into a route. So we've only got to cover 4 guys. So we can really stack the box and have our guys kind of just cover these little spots over here. And, it's not a bad play to use every once in a while, but to actually have that be like a regular thing that you're trying to do, just in today's NFL where it is so much about spacing, where you're trying to really cover as much, make the defense have to cover as much of the field as possible. Even in the run game, you're trying to make them spread out so that you get easy boxes to run against. Mm-hmm. And bring that extra offensive lineman means they can keep 8 in the box.
Yeah, not only that, but it also, oh man, I have a good point here. It's box number stuff, right? So like you have that, it's because of that, teams are going to be able to bracket or roll coverage to your best wide receiver. Also, like you're not worried about that. You're taking a pass catcher off the field. So now you can shade a safety over to Cortland Sutton and limit the potential for a big play because they're not afraid of that 6 offensive linemen. And we just know, just in general, that the running game is less likely to create points than the pass game. Pass game is higher EPA, not even close. So that's one of the big things here. I do think though there is a market for 6 offensive linemen, but it's very niche. I would be interested, like if I was the Buffalo Bills, and you have a quarterback who's essentially a fullback when he wants to be with the run game, and you put that 6 offensive linemen in there, please, God, daddy defensive coordinator, put in another linebacker, play bear front, because if you don't, I'm going to be able to run quarterback power with Josh Allen. And if you do, Josh Allen's a good enough passer where he's going to pick on somebody because you're not, you're taking off coverage players. So right. If you have a quarterback that is, a special type of runner, then I would love to see San Francisco do this with George Kittle and a 6 offensive lineman with Trey Lance. I think that would be fun, especially in the red zone. But as far as like overall, like that being a primary thing, I think that ship has sailed.
Yep.
We got Andrew Morrow coming in here, who always is a big supporter here. And we're already at 50 minutes, guys. Wow, time flies. Keep up the great work, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to have to get flying here, but not going to skip you, Andrew, or any super chats. So if you guys got any, get them in. We appreciate you. I don't know if there's been any stars or anything today. I saw a couple blanks, but you never know. John's working the 1s and 2s, so you guys don't lie to us. Don't kid. Broncos 5th round picks now. Justin Strnad and Netane Moody. Strnad, path to play. I don't think it's as a starter. I think it's more of a sub-package player. I think the Broncos fans in general underrate how solid Strnad is, or how solid Jewell and Alexander Johnson are. Vic Fangio does not ask his linebackers to reinvent the wheel. A lot of run funnels, and he's not asking them very often to, isolated against tight ends. And guess what? Again, behind me, all the linebackers in the NFL who could cover Darren Waller or Travis Kelce one-on-one. Oh, there's nobody freaking there. So like if you asked Josie, if your threshold or your parameter for them being good enough linebacker is covering Darren Waller or Travis Kelce, good freaking luck. Right. Yeah. Like I'm only going to be happy if I marry, God, just a bunch and whatever. It's like, okay, well, sorry, buddy. Like good luck in life. So go ahead.
I was just going to throw out a couple stats here. Broncos, I think, were 5th best in the NFL last season of giving up touchdowns to tight ends. And I know most people like to point towards Tampa Bay as that example of like, this is the team. Look at their linebackers and what they can do to stop tight ends. They gave up, I think, double the touchdowns the Broncos did to tight ends last season. So
it was like 9-5.
Yeah. I think that's their way it was. So not quite double, but I mean, just kind of shows if that's your example of saying this is the team. They were not actually the best team against tight ends last year. Yeah. There's just, like you said, there's not many linebackers out there that you would trust in a one-on-one situation. Like there might be like 2 or 3 plays where I'm going, okay, go survive, please survive this one play. Don't give up the big play. Beyond that, I'm not sitting there letting them cover one-on-one an entire game. I mean, I'd rather have Patrick Surtain be the guy that's covering our tight ends one-on-one the entire game.
100%.
Yeah. Than any linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that out there. Even
the entire NFL?
In the entire NFL. Man. I know. I'm making a bold statement there, but it just linebackers are just not – there's not the elite guys that there were in the past, and tight end has just gotten so athletic. It used to be you go find yourself pretty much an extra offensive lineman that weighs about 20, 30 pounds lighter than an offensive lineman. And they make a few plays here and there. That was what the tight end position was all about. You had a few players like Shannon Sharp that showed up every once in a while that kind of changed things up a little bit. But now in the NFL, it really is about getting that athletic tight end that can just become the biggest mismatch on the entire field.
I do want Fred Warner, man. I would take Fred. Broncos 1 pick away, man. That hurts. Dennis Woods coming in here, $2 super. Thank you so much, Dennis. Great pod, guys. Thanks. Hashtag BD4L. Broncos Denver BD. For life. So yeah. Or building Broncos for life. No, and hashtag Go Hawks. You know, he redeems himself completely there. If that was a misspelling there on that first one, doesn't even matter. It's perfect in my eyes because the hashtag Go Hawks. When you say that around Seattle, people don't take it the right way. I think Seattle the Seahawks actually sued the University of Iowa for Go Hawks. Those beastards.
Were they in a lawsuit for the 12th man?
With Texas A&M. Yep, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Greedy.
Seahawks.
Evil.
Yeah.
Evil. So see, that's why I'm not going to the preseason game. I don't want to give them my money. No, it's expensive too. It costs as much to go to a preseason game as it does a regular season. What's up with that? We got Pillar coming in here. Recipe for stopping tight ends is a good pass rush. It's also a good back seven because it's going to take a synergistic effect of your entire back seven playing with integrity, keeping stuff in front of them to slow them down. Right. So, is what it is. And somebody said, even if you had a Luke Kuechly, well, point me to a first ballot Hall of Fame linebacker, and I'll say, you know what? Okay, I'll take him. But again, so I guess that's all I was getting to here. This long tangent here. I know we're already at 52 minutes, so we need to get running, and then we go on a long tangent about linebackers. But Cernat, I think he's got a limited role this season. I do think that people have this expectation for him to come in and just be this amazing coverage linebacker. And I think he's going to be solid here, and I think he's very fluid in space. He's a lesser athlete than Josie Jewell is, metrics-wise. And I just don't know if he's going to be this like linebacking coverage dynamo savior that everybody's painting him out to be. And I'm worried for the perspective because of him. I think he's going to be a solid player, but like the level that these fans are painting him up to be right now, I don't think is a reasonable expectation.
Right. Yeah, I think everybody's been just so hungry for a decent linebacker since we haven't had one since like 2016.
They've had decent linebackers.
Okay. They haven't had a great linebacker since Trevathan.
A game changer. I would even put Trevathan as just solid. He got paid, but I think you're going to see Alexander Johnson or Josie Jewell also get paid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think you haven't had like a true like multi-time Pro Bowl talent since Al Wilson.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, Bronco fans, either way, we've been hungry for it. It's the same with quarterback position because it's been that long at least, if not longer, for that kind of position to have that kind of player that just dominates in the middle of the field. And so you're right. I think expectations are maybe a little bit higher than they should be for a player of his athletic ability. I like him, and I think he could be a solid starter in the NFL someday. But you and I've talked about it, and you just said it already on the show. Josie Jewell, one of the most underrated players on the Broncos right now. He had a very good season last year compared to what a lot of people ever thought he could be in the NFL. Nick, I'm just kidding.
True. Yeah, it's true.
But he's played beyond expectations for sure. And all right, so we should get to some of these other guys. Maybe we should do rapid fire.
Moody starting maybe 2022. He's kind of like Michael Moody in that sense, where the Broncos have invested heavily. I'd be shocked if he isn't a starting guard, though. Graham Glasgow, while he's been solid, and I know he's a friend of the show because he's come on, but he's going to have to play. Honestly, he's probably going to have to play at a Pro Bowl level this year, unless Moody/Miners suck because of the amount of cap savings the Broncos can have moving on from him. It's just that's the nature of the beast in the NFL. It's kind of like college football where like I'm going to recruit you one year, but bet your ass I'm going to be recruiting a 4 or 5 star right behind you that's going to come and try to take your job because it's my job to replace you the following year. So that's a good situation. It's a good problem for the Broncos interior. But Moody, very powerful, very short armed, sometimes can be a lunger, needs to work on his pass sets. Right now, it's kind of like the Will Hernandez experience where like if he gets a hold of you, he's taking you for a ride, but like is he getting a hold of you?
Yeah, so, he had some highlight plays last year, and I think a lot of people really hyped him up saying, man, this guy, he is it. But if you watch some of his other players, there was a lot of lowlights as well, where he was out of position, didn't understand his role, and was late getting to the block. So some work to do, but has some promise. All right, Tyree Cleveland, probably a kickoff specialist. Possibly
kickoff specialist, both gunner as well, possibly. But I think he's the guy if the Broncos are looking to cut some wide receiver depth. I think Tyree Cleveland could be the kick returner because you want guys typically a little bit bigger in that regard. So that's what I'm going for. And you have higher learnings coming in. Also, thank you so much, Gary. Try and see. It's really fun when you don't have to like just pick a scab over and over again with the quarterback position. But the higher learning saying Stranad was a 5th round pick. He can't be too hyped. He hasn't played yet. I think the fact that some people are talking about him replacing Josie Jewell or Alexander Johnson when he hasn't even played yet as a 5th round pick is enough to be like, okay, let's wait and see. Like, let's
hit the brakes.
Okay. And anything to get from him, that'd be great. Cleveland will be fighting for a roster spot. I agree. He has been apparently pretty good in camp so far, but this is a tough wide receiver room to break. But he's young and cost controlled. So he has a chance over some of those other guys. At least in my opinion. What do you think? I mean, I would take him over. You have Patrick, you have Sutton, who are both free agents at the end of this year. I think that does matter for keeping a guy who still has 3 years of control left. You have Seth Williams, you have KJ Hamler, and you have Judy. That's 5 right there. Mm-hmm. If it was me, I'd be keeping the 6, and the 6 would be Cleveland.
Yep.
So then you have 2 cost-controlled young guys. Actually, 4 cost-controlled young guys, but like long-term with Seth and Tyree.
Yep, and he's got that special teams ability that you like on your back-end receivers. Yeah. Like I said, he could be a gunner. He could be a kickoff return specialist. He can do those things for you and be successful. Maybe not quite to a Beyonce Spencer explosiveness, but good enough that you feel good because he can actually come in and play wide receiver if there are some injuries that happen, and he could still develop into something moving forward. Beyonce Spencer, I think there's a lot of people who sit there and say, man, get that athleticism on the field. Just get the ball in his hands. Let him go make a play. I'm sorry. There's a real big difference between playing receiver and playing returner. Yep. Like you just don't see a lot of returners who are also great receivers.
Yeah, that's true. Different skill set, right? So let's keep moving here. I like Tyree. I think he's got a chance. I think he was the #1 wide receiver recruit in football when he was going into college too. So he's got some talent. Question was never talent for him. It was maturity. I think we'll just leave it at that. Derek Tusca coming in here, a pick that I predicted. Yes, I predicted this one. So what was it? Pick 254, I think, for the Broncos. God, useless knowledge just somewhere in the recesses of my brain. Imagine what I'd be doing if what useful stuff I could have in there. But Derek Tusca. I know we always say that you want to wait a little bit to see these guys, but going from Division II to the NFL, he looked very overmatched last year, not to the extent that we also saw Malik Reed, his first season in the NFL. So I do wonder if Tusca needs to make a transition to off-ball linebacker if he's going to hang. He's the one I'm the most confident. There's not really good edge depth on this team outside of the top 3, so there are roster spots. Right. But as far as like long-term prospects, he's the one out of these guys that I would probably bet on the least. He's the last pick, I know, but like he's the one that impressed me the least out of these guys.
Yep. No, you're right. I mean, they did take Jonathan Cooper there in the 7th round this year. Yep. That I think has some real promise if he can get through the whole heart issue that he's going through. I mean, that's the only reason he was there in the 7th round. Talent-wise, he should have gone higher. But it's going to be interesting who they keep for that 4th spot at the edge. I don't think it's going to be one of those they win it because they've earned it, unfortunately. It's kind of a top 3 and then big drop off after that for the Broncos at that spot. But all right, let's get to the main show before we get out of here.
Yeah, right.
Jerry Judy, KJ Hamler. All right, let's start with KJ Hamler. We'll leave the best for last, the first round pick that's supposed to be the star. So KJ Hamler, with a crowded wide receiver room, what do you expect the Broncos to do with him this year?
They need to get him the ball, and he needs to get healthy. I think those are the biggest two. While he still has Michael cut me off here. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much, Michael. No, it's okay. Super nice. Let's save that one for the end of the show because we're going to rapid fire here a bit. But Hamler, he needs to stay healthy. He's still extremely young. I think he's still only 21, so that probably he'd be one of the younger players in the Broncos draft class this year. But he already has a year in the league, so I would not be too upset this year if he's still kind of a guy who's reaching or growing slowly, and you see a little bit more of him as the season goes along, especially considering the injuries he dealt with last year and also an injury this year already. You just hope he doesn't become that guy who shoulda, coulda, woulda, and then the Broncos let him go at the end of his rookie contract and he blossoms somewhere else, because that's a possibility. I mean, he's extremely young. Also love that he's literally the only player on this team that has the skill set that he does as far as being a vertical threat, but also a jitterbug in the short area game. He can make some dudes completely whiff and look foolish. So expectations this year, it's still probably going to be one where he's more of a niche player. But you want to see him grow, and then hopefully this Broncos can kind of change their identity, their formula in 2022. Obviously, you're moving on from one of Sutton or Patrick. Probably not obviously, but very likely. Then you're hoping that Hamler becomes that third wide receiver out there.
Right. I saw somebody say Hamler is a better version of Spencer from Tim Durr here. And this is kind of one of my things. Like you said, get KJ Hamler the ball. If that means having him work as a punt returner and become that kind of guy, and you just give him the opportunity to go be the speedster that goes make some plays in the open field, that's what I do, because it is going to be hard for him to get a lot of big-time snaps as a wide receiver if everybody stays healthy. I mean, Courtland Sutton, he's a true number one, could be a top 10 wide receiver if he really recovers from this injury and has any kind of consistent quarterback play. I've been trying not to mention quarterbacks, but we got to the wide receivers. We got to mention them a little.
Yeah, you have to.
But Tim Patrick, obviously, another guy that really showed well last year. You're trying to increase his value, whether you keep him or not, just because you can get a comp pick for whatever he can bring on the field. And of course, Jerry Judy, I mean, he's your guy. You got to get him on the field. He's your first round pick. So it just makes sense that you got to have him out there. KJ Hamler, I think he's going to have some limitations on how many snaps he can get. But when he is on the field, then I say, make sure you scheme plays towards him, that you're trying to make sure he has a chance to go make some big plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for Hamler, kind of like Ojemudia, like even though you might not see him as much as you'd hope this year, and if you do, maybe it's because of injuries above him, but don't put it out that candle, right? Like, just because it's more situationally, because the Broncos actually have talent at the position he plays, that he's not getting as many reps or looks as you'd want versus an actual indictment on him. And that's a good situation to be. It's many years. I mean, we've had the Broncos playing guys and like, oh, we're seeing all these rookies. That means it must be great. Or it's because the players that they have around them are bad, so you're forced to play these young guys earlier than you'd want. I don't think that's the case for a wide receiver or cornerback this year. So don't distinguish that candle for KJ Hamler. And then finally, Jerry Judy was my very high on Jerry Judy. Very curious to see what his role is long term. This year, I think his best bet is that the Broncos running 11 personnel. You're going to see him in the slot. You're going to see Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick on the outside being those big body guys, and then give Jerry Judy space in the horizontal planes, both directions, to create separation and get easy completions. And then hopefully, like we saw in that the Raiders game last year, so do some yak stuff, because unfortunately last year with quarterback play the way it was, Jerry Judy's yak opportunities were limited. But when he gets the ball in space, he is a lot of fun. He can create separation. Just got to get the guy the ball in time.
Yep. I'm with you. I would say anything less than 1,000-yard season from Jerry Judy would be a letdown, not only for his draft position, but the hype that's already come out of this offseason of him just being one of the biggest playmakers at all of the OTAs and mini camps and everything else. He seems like he's a guy that's on a mission to really kind of come back from what he showed last year with some of those drops. Yes, he does. Yes, he does show up on social media a lot. And that is a concern sometimes, where a player really works so hard to, I guess, build their brand. And Jerry Jeudy's one of those guys. He's not always the most well-spoken in the sense of, like, he'll just say what's on his mind. And sometimes for the NFL, teams don't like that. They like you to kind of toe the line, the company line. And Jerry Jeudy doesn't usually do that. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of vibes with the whole organization moving forward. And, for being a first-round pick, you always want to see that guy get to a second contract. I'm very interested to see how much the team kind of is frustrated with some of that off-the-field stuff that he has. I'm not saying that he's a distraction or anything like that. I'm just saying I could see him becoming that kind of guy just because of how much he is on social media.
Just like me with Mile High Huddle, right? Just total distraction for everybody. I see John shaking his head in the background. Yeah, I'm excited for Judy this year. Got to get him the ball in time. A lot of mouths to feed. But overall, I think John Elway had a really good draft class in 2020, and it put the Broncos, again, stacking a good class in 2019 and 2020, in my opinion, and really getting this Broncos team set up in the right direction where they have a good bunch of good players on rookie contracts. So these guys got a lot to prove still, but overall solid rookie year. And that's the reason this team is a dark horse this year if the quarterback play can step up. So we'll see. And I see a lot of people saying taking Claypool instead of KJ Hamler. While they both play wide receiver, couldn't be farther apart on the spectrum of skill set. You're talking about Claypool, who is a really good wide receiver, but like complete overlap of skills of Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. And you don't want to have just the same type of wide receiver and over again. You want guys who can fill different roles, different niches, and speed kills guys. I mean, just look at last year. I think Anthony Schwartz went in the second round or third round, and he was terrible at Auburn as a football player, but the dude can fly. Speed is always going to be valued super high because name of the game right now is creating explosive plays. And the best way to do that, speed. So thanks guys very much for joining us today. We probably got to get on out of here. I got to cook some dinner. But appreciate everyone for joining us today. You can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Kendell MHH. Also, guys, make sure you follow John on Twitter at John K MHH. While you're over on Twitter, follow us at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Facebook people, please click those thumbs up. I see we got these numbers pumped up now. We got a care react from Allison Sessions. I see you, Allison. Thank you very much. Couple loves here. Jason O'Neill and Terry Rigg. Let's pump those numbers up. If I get a care or a heart, I'm going to read it out here. So thank you guys for joining us. If you're on Facebook, also go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Guys, YouTube, please. I know all the YouTube listeners out there, subscribe, like, and share if you're joining us there today. That can help us a heck of a lot. And I guess that's going to do it for us today, Carl. Appreciate everybody who joined in, donated, and everyone stay safe. And hopefully no heat dome is heading your way as well. We're finally getting out of the heat wave here in Seattle. So going to be a good week, hopefully. Good vibes. I kept my shirt on today, so that's good. And we'll see you all next Tuesday, same time, same place for another episode of Building the Broncos.